There's one thing I've learned advising families across a variety of income levels, industries, and net worth ranges. It's this. The foundation of wealth is built on one thing: understanding your cash flow and intentionally allocating your surplus towards your goals. It doesn't come from fancy investments, no super secret tax hacks, and no market timing. It really starts with the basics. What are you earning? How much do you pay in taxes? How much do you spend? What are your savings and how do you allocate that? And this applies universally, whether your family makes $100,000 a year or $1 million a year. Today, I'm going to show you the exact framework I use with clients, walk you through a real example using a spreadsheet, and then show you the tool that brings it all to life and allows you to track it, which is Monarch. Most people assume that wealth builds itself. I make good money, I save into my 401k, it's all going to work out. And that may be true, but here's the truth. Your income doesn't build wealth, your savings rate does. And when I think about it more specifically, your after-tax savings rate, the dollars saved outside of retirement accounts, is really what determines your flexibility, optionality, and long-term success. Now, I want to show you an example just to emphasize how powerful this can be. Now, imagine a household earning a combined $525,000 a year. After taxes, benefits, 401k deductions, about $27,800 hits their bank account every month. At that income, their life is comfortable. They have a mortgage, they have childcare, they travel, they have cars, food. All that spending adds up to about $8,400 a month. But here's the really amazing part. They still have roughly $9,400 left over every month. On an annual basis, that's about $112,000 of after-tax savings. And that's before we account for their retirement accounts. When you add in their 401ks and any employer matches, the total annual savings is up to almost $190,000. Let's just focus on that after-tax portion. What happens when they invest that $112,000 per year at a normal 7% return? If they do that for 15 years consistently, they end up with over $2.8 million, just from steady, repeatable savings and market returns. There's no special strategy, there's no perfect timing, just taking consistent cash flow and investing that in whatever strategy is right for them. That's ultimately the engine of serious wealth creation. So how do you do this if you want to do it yourself? Where do you start? In my mind, the goal is simple. You need to calculate your true cash flow, identify the surplus, or identify what you want the surplus to be, and then allocate it with intention. The framework is always the same: income, taxes, spending, savings, allocation. Now let me walk you through the spreadsheet that I use so you can see how everything fits together. Now let's focus on the income side of it. At the top, we'll start with two incomes, any other income that may come in, a blended tax rate, which you can calculate or get from your CPA, and any deductions, 401k or healthcare. And that leads to a monthly cash income, which is that $27,000 number. This is really the most important number in your financial life, the amount you actually bring home. And I firmly believe that if you want to meaningfully change your family's wealth trajectory, it needs to come from the income side. There's only so much you can save. Then if you look at the next section, housing and utilities, you got to factor in mortgage, rent, utilities, HOA, home insurance. And that number adds up to about $6,300 for this family. Next, you have to consider your lifestyle. Where are you really spending money? How much of your spending is coming for your lifestyle? And in my experience, this is where families really underestimate their true costs. Here you can see for this family, I've included food, restaurants, shopping, household items, private school, fitness or club memberships. But this is different for every family. This family is spending about $9,600 on that. And finally, transportation. You may have 2 car payments, insurance payments. What does that add up to on a monthly basis? For this family, it's about $2,000. And I always like to factor in insurance. Every family has a different insurance exposure, but here they both have term life insurance for both husband and wife, and that amounts to $381 per month. So all of these are inputs to help us view the entire picture. What is their income? What is coming in? What is their spending? And then what is the actual after-tax cash savings on a monthly basis and on an annual basis? What is that savings? And then what is the savings when you want to factor in retirement as well? This spreadsheet will be included in a link in the description so you can build it for yourself. But what I want to highlight here is this is obviously a household that earns a really strong income. But without this clarity, they would have actually no idea how much they're spending, saving, and what they want to do with that. And more importantly now, they have a specific number that they want to intentionally allocate. Not every month's the same, not every year's the same, but they know roughly about how much they want to invest in a variety of different strategies based on their unique goals. This strategy is really the blueprint. And if your family is at the break-even point, you can use this spreadsheet to really determine how much am I saving, how much am I spending, where am I saving it, and where can we adjust our plan to reach the goals, to know how much cash we need to reach the goals. Retirement accounts are amazing. Please keep using them. But a brokerage account is really what creates freedom. This is the account that funds early retirement, a sabbatical, a second home, a future business you may want to launch, tuition planning, broader portfolio diversification. It's the account you can access whenever you want, without age restrictions, and that is powerful, even if you have to pay taxes on it. So let's go back to our example. Saving $112,000 per year for 15 years at a 7% return is $2.8 million. Now that's a big number, but even if you're able to save $50,000 per year, it still becomes over $1 million. That's incredible. And it's not glamorous, it's not complicated, it's just consistent and boring. But that is ultimately what the real engine of wealth is. Doing things predictably over time to live the life that you want. Spreadsheets are great for planning, but they're terrible for monitoring. And Monarch solves that. And so here's why I recommend it and provide it for all my clients so they can continuously monitor that planning that we did with the spreadsheet. So there's a few of my favorite things I wanted to show you. The first is it lets you monitor your cash flow on a monthly, quarterly, or even annual basis. So you can look at quarter over quarter, how much did you earn? How much did you spend, and what was your savings and savings rate? And so it can be quite powerful because you and I both know no month is the same, no quarter is the same, but overall we want to find what is the right path for your family. So you can look at it annually, you can look at it monthly, and all of this is really powerful. And there's other amazing visualizations to track how you're spending. You can see your path of income and where your income is going and what you're spending it on a transaction by transaction level. And ultimately, this tool is very valuable to make sure you're holding yourself accountable to the plan that you set up, and in order to make sure that you can allocate the right amount of capital to your long-term goals. At the end of the day, wealth isn't about perfection. It's about intention. If you ultimately understand what you earn, what you spend, what you save, and where that savings is going, you're already ahead of 95% of the world. Cash flow is the foundation. Brokerage investing is really the engine of that. And consistency is the multiplier. And I view Monarch as the best way to stay accountable to these plans. If you can do these things, even imperfectly, you will build real wealth. And if you ever want guidance, building your version of this, or really understanding what goals you should be aiming for, or how much you need to save, you know where to find me. Feel free to reach out and we can schedule a time to talk. Thank you.